Yo, so need to have this talk. Look, I was like, what? I mean, look, it's over. It's done. There's no need to talk about really the season in that form because I was like, this is not a team. I guess to be like, oh, there's some miraculous. Like for instance, like some miraculous hope. Like for instance, the Ravens get Lamar Jackson back. I will still be like, yo, they'll find themselves in the playoffs. Now, yes, Lamar, the injuries, you could be like, oh man, coming off the bye. Yes, you can all look like that. But also, let's be honest, it's the confidence that team has gotten over the year that you give them the benefit of the doubt. You got some belief in there. There's some faith. You could be like, I was like, I won't say no until I see it. I was like, cool. I get it. That's what they've earned. That's what they gathered. Guess what, Dolphins? You ain't earned none of that. None of that at all. So I'm saying season over. I put it like this: tickle me pink. If they find themselves in the playoffs, hell, I'll even say it for a winning record. And they missed the playoffs. Hell, now the play. So at this point, I'm not even really talking about like the season as far as winning. But let's talk about the thing that's going on. Let's first of all get with Tua. Now, I made a video back when I was talking about Tua, and they'll need to come out when he was basically coming back at Cam Newton. And guess what? They did win. But since then, nothing. So Tua speaks out here, and on one hand, I'm gonna be like, oh, okay. I'm like, I know it's a difference in opinion on whether that's like leadership or calling people out in front of the media instead of behind closed door. Let's assume that he's talked to people behind closed door, and the media was the only way to deal with it in the end or whatever. Even though his coach sort of like came back out to a sort of apologize, the same old BS that we always hear about. But you need to play well and show out if you're going to do stuff like that, because you can't talk about other people, the team, and stuff like that, and you not holding up on your end. Now you could say I was like, I can't hold up on my end because they're not holding up on the end. All right, cool, sure, but nobody trying to really hear all that. So Tua, I'm just saying that while you got your hair done up, you got the sleeves going, got your heritage on your arms, feeling a little bit extra about yourself. You getting into that age where that age where like men be like, they ain't boys no more. We men. That I was like that. That you could always see, no matter like some of the sport where like you come back and it's like they got a different way of talking. They got tats. I was like they come back and it's like different. Like what happened to you over the summer? I was like, you got taller? Like, it's stuff like that. Then I was like, all right, he feeling himself. But it ain't on the field like that. Which is why I am like, we just fire sale. Get rid of, done. Whatever. Go ahead. I was like, look, I said they should have traded Tyreek before he got hurt. Now you ain't gonna get nothing for him. And he probably gonna be like released at the end of the year. All right, cool beans. I was like, to me, I was like, see, man, it's hard because Darren Waller done showed he's back. Like he been the best thing other than Achane on the team on offense, basically. Defense still be over here giving things open like they 24/7. But I was like, that's been the bright spot, at least on the offense. So that's why I'm like, man, did we get rid of Waddle when you got Darren Waller playing really well? Because then it's just going to be Darren Waller, and then that's a different ball game. So I was like, but at the same time, if you're going to not have Tyreek, I think you have to keep Jalen Waller, because otherwise you don't have anything that's special in cohesion with the offense. Because then it's going to be like double team Waller, 8-man box. That's all it's going to be. And two was already showing us. I was like with some of the other dudes that hey, and look, some of them other dudes ain't. I like Washington. I was like he could be Debo esque, but I don't know if we're. I was like, but I don't know outside of that. You know, like this year we seeing Debo doing a little bit more than I was like this year than he was like the last couple years when he's healthy, as far as being a receiver. So hey, maybe there's some uptick there, but I think that McDaniels is done after this year. I really think the general manager should be done because he's been there so damn long, and for what? For what? We don't. I was like, how many players do we got that you really say like, oh man, he is like. I'm not saying he drafted poorly. I'm just saying how many of them still around. Figure Patrick, I was like, while I understand for a first, we bumped him out. Hollins, we bumped him out, and I get money blade the issue, but still. Phillips, I was like, yes, he's had injuries as well too, and he's been okay at times. He's been okay to good at times, but which he could go to. Bradley Chubb, here you go. That's where I'm sort of getting. I was like him and the roster construction. Now it's not just draft picks or whatever, even though they had that horrible time when they was getting rid of players and stuff like that. And I'm not saying you got to go to that extent to get rid of the player, but I'm just saying pieces we've gotten in where it's like, okay, we do this one piece, doesn't do anything. Do this one piece. I was like, outside of that 1 year when we did get Bradley Chubb and stuff, because we were going all in and everything just went to crap because everybody got injured and all that other stuff. Nothing else about the roster is working, and to the point that I'm like, we're like, to be honest, like we're only above like the Jets, and they have looked like hot doo-doo purple water. And to me, I'm like, you can't have an offensive coach like this and be trash. Look what Tennessee did. Offensive coach, it was, because guess what? The offense looks like trash. Gotta get up out of there. I was like, and I don't think Mike McDaniels is bad. I don't think he's bad. I just think that his philosophy just basically didn't improve. And no, to me, it's no different than Cliff Kingsbury. That's pretty much where I think that he sort of is, where it's just like you have a team and you're just like speed, flash, and all this other stuff, and finesse, but then when it gets time for it, you lose, or you lose going into the later in the season as the finesse stuff stopped to not really work anymore. And I was like, I'm like just from like the offensive line play, I'm like, so where I'm just like, you, like, guess what? If the defense sucks at you, the defensive head coach, that's coming back on you. So in the same way, the offense is. I was like, look, Achane is great, and I was like, that's where we run the ball, and I was like, I think that's where it's like, oh man, McDaniels could see these guys plugging in. I think that's where he is special. But then I was like, some of this other stuff just doesn't work. This doesn't click. I was like also with the defense as well, because like, to be honest, I'm like, why the defense not built up when you have a offensive, like how like a defensive head coach gets a really good offensive coordinator, so that it's like, that's your side, I got this, well, I got to manage all this. That's how I feel like it should be the same way. Build up the defense because McDaniel got the offense, and I was like, you can rock out like that, that way you don't have, I would like how Peyton Manning sort of was, or whatever, in that type of way. Like, remember, like Peyton Manning, they had a finesse team. I was like, receivers all of glory. I was like, offensive line, good. Tight end, they had a good one. I was like, running backs, they had good ones. A good quarterback to a great quarterback. You get what I'm saying? Playoffs time to change, or whatever. But not the strongest arm and all this other stuff. But the defense, and the defense was always the thing that's like, if the defense right, it could take over. It could take Peyton. And guess what? When the defense was right, it took Peyton. Whether that was Mathis, I was like Freeney, Sanders, whatever. We don't have the Mathis and Freeney that we need. You don't have the Bob Sanders that you need. And I was like, and I'm not even saying those selected players aren't really good, but it's just not working here. So might as well just be like, yo, what can we get for them? I was like, if everybody's going to get pretty much fired at the end of the season, now I get it. Me as a general manager, why would I trade those dudes? And I'm not gonna be here for the picks. So I do understand that. But you also got to make moves as if you're still gonna be here. I just say that, hey, get rid of it. I was like, you're gonna start over. I was like, people gotta go or whatever. It's confusing to be like, how do I help them while I'm not gonna be here to have the fruits of my labor in that type of sense. But yeah, I was like, I don't know. I'm just random. I was like, they had that game to me, one with the Chargers. I was like, I can get off a little bit of being like, I can get off of the fact that I was like, Phillips, you had him, and Herbert big ass was just hard to tackle. Fine, it sucks, but fine. But when McConkey got it, and I'm just like, the only thing you can't do is basically a juke. Stay sound. If he goes to the sideline, he goes to the sideline. He jukes inside and then proceeds to go so far that the game is practically done. And I'm just like, okay, cool. Also, the game with the Panthers. That game should have been like, all right, we just won the previous game. We're gonna win this game and get on this roll. I was like, and guess what? We sort of done jump started the Panthers in their season. I was like, what seemed to be an easy win? Got them back on track. Okay, cool, whatever. I was like, Chargers. They ain't got no offensive linemen pretty much. They ain't got no run game. Doesn't matter. Still out here throwing picks. We getting sacked. How about that? So I was like, at this point, season's done or whatever. I guess only thing I was like, I don't even know what to really even look for because, like I said, I think everybody's done. I was like, even though that general manager's been able to stay there, I was like, Greer, even though he's been able to stay there for so long and somehow still find a way to get through all of, except for like 2 seasons of good Dolphins play, he's been able to stick it out. I feel like he should be done. Then I'm like, what are you even looking for? Like, people to stay? It doesn't matter if that the general manager ain't there. So it's a weird rooting cycle of like, do you wish for the general manager to stay there so you can see who stays with the team or who we get rid of? Do we trade him for picks? Or be like, what doesn't even matter so that he could be gone? They could be gone. And I'm not even over here being like, get them out of here. But let's just start over. And I was like, I'll also kind of like, I feel like the Tua of all this. I think Tua has 1 more year. I was like, unless somebody comes calling for him, which I do think that Tua at his best. I feel like he could do Baker-ish things. Cause I was like, but Baker does have a different element to him than Tua. Cause I was like, you could say like Baker got a pretty good line. He got 2 really good backs. I was like, even though they don't have Goodwin, they don't have Evans. I was like, Ibuka's not gonna play, I think, this week or whatever. Even though he had a plethora, I was like, his weapons are out. He do have a plethora of weapons. Cause I was like, Shepard last year was really good at everybody. That came out of the 3rd receiver that everybody liked, or whatever. Then I'm like, I was like, Alman is a pretty good, decent tight end. So I'm like, he got a good enough amount of weapons. That was the plan with Tua. Surround him with enough playmakers and weapons. And that's why I think at the best, he could be at least, I think, like 12 in the league or whatever. But I was like, will he find it here? I think it depends on who comes in. But I think he's going to have that 1 year. He'll have 1 year. And before it's over, unless, like I said, somebody comes in with a pretty decent deal of like 2nd, 3rd pick or whatever, I think that he'll get 1 year. Other than that, hey, some of y'all come calling for picks. Cause I'm like, that might also say Greer's job if he's able to swindle, say, the Cowboys for like Jalen Phillips of a high pick that nobody thought that would happen. Maybe. Anyway, I guess that's enough of me ranting or whatever, because what else they look forward to. Still gonna watch. I was like, still watch the game because I was like, hey. I was like, did they play the? I think we played the Jets. I was like, there's no point in looking up because I was like, what are we gonna win? That, hey, could be worse, but it still might be worse. Anyway, done.